Lomo al Trapo, discovered in Bogota, Colombia at Andreas DC. What you'll need is some red wine, cracked salt, seasoning. I use Montreal steak, sirloin, and of course butcher's twine and cheesecloth. Now, Lomo al Trapo is a literal translation of loin to the rag. Hence the cheesecloth. What you want to do is unwrap the cheesecloth and completely surround your container with it. You'll see I fold it in multiple ways so that I can get multi-layers. You don't want the cheesecloth to be too thin, as you are putting this directly on the coal and it will burn right through, and therefore you will have a burnt steak, and that is not the desired outcome for this. Once you have the cheesecloth unwrapped, what you want to do is flatten the bottom so that you can put your seasoning and your cracked salt on the bottom. You take the cracked salt, in this case this is a brand new container which I just picked up, and you put it on the bottom of the container. Now you don't have to go too liberal, it won't simply dissolve into the meat, but it'll give a nice crusty flavor to the sirloin. Here I just covered the bottom, didn't use the whole container. I then moved over to my Montreal steak seasoning, which of course is very delicious on its own. Same thing applies here. You simply take the seasoning and you liberally add it to the bottom of your container. Now this is a marinating container. You don't need to use one, but it's advisable. Next, what we do is we take the sirloin, we unwrap it from the butcher, you put it nicely in the container, and you gently roll the container, the sirloin, so that it fills the surface. Now, as you can see, I have to fill the piece that was not covered with the salt and the seasoning. So I'll just simply put a little bit of seasoning there and some salt, and that'll cover the bare area of meat, and we won't have to have an area of the steak that is not covered. Now roll and tuck the cheesecloth in nicely. Make sure the ends are closed, you don't have them open. Next, we take some twine, or the butcher's twine. What I did was created a little loop on the one end, and I created a lasso on the other, and what I did was I lassoed the one piece from the one end, and then I simply braided the piece of the twine on the sirloin. It's important that you make this nice and tight. You don't want it too loose. You want to keep the meat together, and you want to keep the cheesecloth together and tight. Once you have that nicely tightened, make sure that no loose pieces are around and that it fits in the container nice and snug. We are going to next take the wine, which I'm using an Italian wine here, and we're going to simply fill the container with wine. You want to make sure that the sirloin is completely soaked. You want to make sure that you rotate the meat every 30 minutes. You put it in the fridge for at least 3 hours of soaking. Now for the fun stuff, we get the barbecue ready. You can see on the left I've got a cast iron tray where I have the coals evenly laid out. I take my grills off. I take the first layer of protective sheeting off, or heat deflectors off the barbecue. And the reason you want to do this, you want to make sure that the coals go as close to the burners as possible without actually touching the burner. You take the tray, you put it in nice and gently. It has got some weight, so make sure you bend your knees when you lift it up. Once that's in place, you make sure that it's even all the way through. You then go, in my case, I've got a natural gas fire, and then you simply turn it on and leave it running for at least 5 to 10 minutes till the coals start glowing. You will see here I have put in the meat thermometer, and you can see from the coals as I lift it up, you can see that there's a nice glow. You can put your hand on it, and if you've got a 3-second hold, that's just the right heat for the meat to be put on. Now I don't quite have the right amount of heat, as I can hold my hand there for more than 3 seconds, so I'll let it sit. Let's get back to when the heat is up. You can see on my thermometer gauge, it's right there. You can see the glow, or the red glow in the coals. Put my heat up, and there we go. 3 seconds, we're good to go. We now take that sirloin and we place it gently directly on the coal, and then what you will have to do is, once it's on there, you can see my temperature gauge in the sirloin, so I can make sure that it is done correctly and done at the right time. You put it on the coal, then what you do is you close the lid. You see that at 7 degrees Celsius right now. Once we close the lid, you come back and rotate the meat so it gets cooked on either side every 15 minutes. You don't need gas on, and there you go. You can now go and rotate the meat every 15 minutes. If you want the steak to be rare, you pull the meat off at 50 degrees Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit. For medium, 55 degrees Celsius, 131 Fahrenheit. And for very well done, 60 degrees and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are accurate numbers, and what you do once you take the cheesecloth off, make sure you shake the meat to get any excess salt or any of the cheesecloth out. Then what you do is you do a nice cut down the center. We then expose the meat. It is now ready, and look at that. Mouth-watering sirloin, something that would tempt even a vegan. What I did was I used my sizzling on the side just to sear that meat in. I opened that up, and we sear it about a minute to 2 minutes per side. What that does, it sears the juices in. Look at that. Now I'm going to go inside and enjoy my Lomo al Trapo. You can have it with asparagus, mashed potatoes. You could do French fries. I did French fries with lime and black pepper. Delicious. Enjoy. And thanks for watching.